UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Infinite diversity.
Live long and prosper, and welcome to Infinite Diversity, a Star Trek Universe podcast, here on the United Federation of Podcast Network. I'm your host for today, Justin Oser, and joining me are my co-hosts, Chrissie De Clerck-Szilagyi and Brandon Shea Matala. So, Chrissie, are you the anticipated input?
Think so. Yes, I am the anticipated input. I'm here because you knew I was supposed to be.
Process emotion, ecstatic gratitude. Clap, 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 clap. Great. Thank you for being here, Chrissie. And Brandon, honored Elder Brandon, do you have a story for me?
No, but I have a song for you.
Oh, yes, please sing in Kelpian for us.
Black Betty, wham, ba-lam, ba-lam. Black Betty got a child, bam, ba-lam, ba-lam. That's what I sing to my kids to put them to sleep.
And do they go to sleep?
No, it like riles them up for some reason. I don't know.
Well, okay. Good to know. So we also have a great guest with us today. So also join with us is Rin the Andorian himself, Noah Averbach-Katz. Welcome to Infinite Diversity, Noah.
Hello. Happy to be here. I don't have a song. I am not the correct input, but I've got a Star Trek hat on, which nobody on the podcast can see because, of course, it's just audio. So, yeah, I guess I really blew it, you guys. I'm sorry.
Not at all.
That's okay. I mean, you've been in Star Trek, so that's more than good enough for us.
That's true.
So oftentimes when we have guests on, we'll ask about their Star Trek story or whatever, but I think you've been, interviewed a number of places. I'd recommend also that people check out the Trek Profiles podcast with friend of the show, John Krikorian, because you did a great deep dive into your Star Trek history and what it's like playing Ren on Star Trek Discovery. So I'd recommend going there. But I do have one question for you, which you can answer now or later.
Okay.
Because I didn't give you this question beforehand. So I want to know if you have something that you've made up in your head that doesn't give away any spoilers for the future for what Rin might have been doing off screen in this episode.
Oh, yeah, he's probably like sitting in some guest quarters or whatever, looking out the window at Osiris' ship, just being like, "Oh crap! Oh my god! I can't believe this! What just like that." And then there's stuff over comms, and then somebody probably beams into the door right outside, and he's like, "Oh, come on, give me a break here. I just want to go to vacation. Take me to Ryza. I've had enough of this, get me out of here." And then he probably is just going to like sit down and watch TV or something like that. Future TV.
Movie.
Yeah.
Watch a movie, right?
Watch a movie, yeah.
Noah, I was predicting a couple episodes ago, I said, I predict by the end of the season we're going to get like a confrontation between Rin and Osira, but I also predicted that Osira is going to get eaten by a transworm.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, I like that for her. A good fate. A fitting fate.
Definitely. Well, that's great. I mean, that's more than I would have expected you would come up with on the fly. But that's why you're a great actor. Okay, so let's get into the show. Actually, we have a couple of quick news items that we'll go through briefly. So first, we've talked about on the show before that they're gearing up to film for Star Trek Picard. Evan Evagora, who plays Elnor, had said it might be in January. And there's just a little item here where on social media, Jerry Ryan was saying that production for Picard begins in February, so maybe pushed back a little bit. Maybe they're working out safety protocols or something because LA has been hit pretty hard. But any comments on it being pushed back a bit?
Good luck. It's not easy. It's hard enough up here in Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen Alex Kurtzman gave an interview for like all the precautions and how expensive it is and all that. It's really something else.
Yeah,
is what we've heard. So
I have no problem waiting to keep people safe. The last thing that any Trek fan wants is to find out that somebody got COVID and died because they were filming. So
yeah, I think they're really trying hard to make sure that doesn't happen. So yeah, it'll be pushed a little bit. So maybe filming at the same time as Strange New Worlds, which we've heard is February, so as well. So yeah, we'll see how that goes and if that's confirmed that they're going forward. So the other item, which was an interesting one, Chrissy, that you had pointed out to me before I got a chance to see it, has the headline of Ashes of Star Trek's James Doohan were smuggled onto the International Space Station, which it's a really, I mean, listeners should just go there to Trek Movie. I'm sure we'll have a link in the show notes, but basically one of the passengers who'd paid to go on the International Space Station back in 2008 smuggled some of James Doohan's ashes onto the space station. It's still there. I think it's gone, gone around a number of orbits for Earth for like 1 billion miles or something like that, which is something else. Thoughts on that?
Finally, capitalism pays off in the Star Trek world. Thank God.
Yeah, because I guess it was one of his wishes to have his ashes in space somehow, and I think there were another part of his ashes that went up on some other rocket or something like that.
Yeah. But it's funny because what's his son's name? Chris Doohan?
Chris Doohan, yeah.
Yeah, Chris Doohan, yeah. So he revealed in a tweet and whatnot, he says, something that I've been holding on to a secret for 12 years. So have the ashes been up there for 12 years?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Apparently, like, as far as I understand it, like, this passenger hid it under the equivalent, I guess, of a floorboard on the space station, and nobody has noticed it.
That's funny.
It's just flying up around the Earth. So
it's very cool.
Well, I was all excited because when he initially tweeted that, I'm like, oh my goodness, does this mean he's been cast as Scotty in Strange New Worlds? And then I'm like, no, because he said 12 years.
Yeah.
So then I was like deflated. But
he did tease it.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite as impactful as his tease indicated, but that's okay.
But still, a pretty interesting story there.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the news we have for this week. Not too much around Christmas, but those are some interesting ones. So let's actually jump into our discussion of Discovery, Season 3, Episode 11, The Citadel. That's right? That's what it's called, right, guys?
Citadel, Sukal, something like that.
Well, we had... I guess it was funnier when we were trying to arrange it beforehand. but we had said last week we'd be watching one called The Citadel, which may have been an early leak. They may have changed the name, but it's actually called Sukal. So the episode's actually called Sukal. So we like to get initial thoughts, first impressions, and we like to start with our guests. So Noah, oftentimes we'll ask people like, hey, what do you think of Discovery overall? And, what do you think of this episode in particular?
Careful. You guys have to be really careful this time. I'm telling the whole cast what you think, so you better be really careful.
Okay. All right. But yeah, we just want to get your thoughts on, this episode in particular.
Well,
just overall first. Yeah.
Overall, I feel like there have been some great additions to this season, new people coming in, bringing, kind of classic aliens back to life in a very fun way. I'm loving that. Not referring to anyone in particular who you guys might know, just in general. I'm just talking about that. But no, I think it's been a really, really awesome season. I think the jump to the future has really been freeing for both the sort of creative production team and for the actors as well. It sort of allows them to really embrace character growth kind of across the board. I feel like Sonequa has gotten a lot more times to showcase her range as an actor, which has been very fun. And I obviously have a huge bias towards one Mary Wiseman, but I feel like I've really loved everything she's
really you do. Why would that be?
We just know each other very well. We have a very sordid history going back many years now.
Okay.
It's a very, very will they, won't they kind of thing we have.
Not all the listeners may know.
Yeah,
okay, so no, you played Rin the Andorian, but you were also married to Mary.
This is correct. Yes. So if you don't know, now you do, and now everything I've been saying for the last 5 minutes makes a little bit of sense. Not quite, but a little bit. But I've just, I feel like a lot of the characters are growing up, in a really, really fun way. They're kind of going from, being sort of rocketed and blasted by all of these sort of events and sort of having to follow the events. And now they're, and even though it's a new kind of universe, really, it feels like they're really leading their own stories in a new way, which I'm really, really liking. And I thought this was a really, really great episode. It's like it had a lot of really classic things, with kind of the stuck away team and then this sort of like ship unable to contact them. And like, I think what I really like about the episode too, and what Discovery has been able to do really, really well is then tie in the sort of personal connection and stakes. So it's not just Starfleet stakes, oh, we're going to lose our away team. It's like, oh, my husband's down there. My new boyfriend who's extremely attractive is down there or whatever, and yeah, and I'm very excited for kind of Adira's rogue mission. I thought that was such a fun little ending, which I kind of, I'm not sure if I read all the scripts. I probably didn't, but even if I did, it was a long time ago. And so I was like, oh yeah, that's such like an awesome way to kind of end the thing, and how brilliant to put the stuff in their mouth, which I really, really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. So those are my overall takeaways. I guess I'm kind of skipping to the commentary already, but all right, whatever.
No, that's fine. That was a great perspective. So, Chrissie, your thoughts overall on this episode?
Yeah, I love that we're going to talk about this, but I love that it appears that the cause of the burn is something completely out of nowhere. People were saying political or, a natural disaster, a war, something like that. But I like that this is potentially going to come down to just the feelings of an abandoned child. And that kind of thing can do a much farther reaching damage. So I also hope we're not losing Saru. I mentioned about how maybe he's going to end up with the Kelpian ship last week, and I'm like, whoa, don't manifest that.
Well, as far as we know, unless it's a deception, he's been filming for season 4. And Noah, you don't need to say anything.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
Oh, no.
Good. So, but yeah, like it was one of those things where like, ooh, yeah. Okay. So Brandon, your thoughts?
So first watch of this episode, like I really, really enjoyed this episode. This is a very TOS episode. This type of adventure that's going on is very original Star Trek. It was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. But even after every watch, I was left underwhelmed because we're rapidly approaching the season finale, and this little kind of side quest is not really what I was expecting at this point in the season. And we'll get to the discussion later, but I know that we have 2 more episodes coming, but I'm kind of underwhelmed that the cause of the burn is going to be this apparently emotionally unstable 125-year-old child Kelpian, so I'm kind of torn. I'll bring it up more when we get to the discussion on the burn, but I'll just leave it at that for now. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a lot of fun, but I'm underwhelmed at the end of the episode when I've watched it. So,
okay, interesting. So for my thoughts, the first time that I watched this, I felt like I enjoyed it a lot, but there was so much going on. I was having like a little trouble processing it. So I told you guys, like, I have a few questions. I'm not quite sure what to make of it. But then I did a rewatch, and like as I went through it, I think there are a lot of great kind of character scenes. I actually really like that the presumed cause of the burn, like you, Chrissie, it's like this thing that seems unexpected, and because of an individual decision, I kind of like that. And like as I was going through and rewatching it, I was like, actually, I really love this episode. I think it's one of my favorites of the season. Whereas at first I was like, they're throwing so much at me that I don't know what to make of it. So I'll leave it there for my initial slot. So interesting mix, as often happens. So kind of let's get into kind of the heart of the episode. So basically they find out that on this Kelpian ship we've heard about, there's a life sign, and that it seems like it's this child because the mother Kelpian that we saw before was pregnant. And so they go to the nebula. There's some turbulence. It's a little difficult to get there, but they organize an away team that includes Burnham and Culber and Saru, and they beam down and they find this environment. I mean, it's for me, it's kind of hard to describe it, but it's kind of like this. It felt like it was a little like dark and gothic, or there was just something about it that was kind of like a little mysterious and spooky. So they go into this environment. It seems like they're on the ship, and that they figure out they're in this holographic environment, and kind of as they go through it, it seems find the child and figure out that the mother had created basically this training for him surviving until he could be rescued. So they kind of go through that, and we'll go through maybe some more specifics, but I'm just curious for kind of like this whole sequence. Some thoughts on it. I mean, I think the first thing that I thought was fun was that they beam down and their appearances change, so that Culber is a Bajoran, Burnham is a Trill, and Saru is a human. I have to say, I think I knew it was coming when they seemed shocked at Saru's appearance, but it was kind of cool to see Doug Jones as a human. But but no, like for that part where they're beaming down and they're finding kind of this odd surrounding, like, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, just like getting Doug's face is so amazing. I think, like, as an actor, he does so much stuff under prosthetics. He's such a prosthetics master that it was just like, personally, it was very, very gratifying knowing Doug well to get to see his face. And I know that he like loves to get his face out there and act when he gets to show his face, which is obviously a strange thing to describe about an actor, but like it really means a lot to him. And I think it was also very nice for him to get a little break from the prosthetics, because after about 2.5-3 years at that point, it's really, really mentally taxing and physically taxing. So it was just great to get to see him. And I think, you know, one of the things about his face is it's so expressive, you know, and those masks are so thick that you really can't always pick up on the sort of subtle facial movements, you know, the kind of crinkle of the eyes, the raise of the eyebrows that Doug is doing so much of clearly under the mask. And I think it was such a great way to like get to see his level of acting ability and technical proficiency, that he's sort of able to convey, you know, that level of care and investment, which you can see when he's kind of having all these interactions throughout the episode, especially the interaction with the older kind of Hollow Kelpian. It's just like really deeply felt, and it's just very impressive for me to get to see him without his mask on and see that I'm feeling the same things as I feel when I watch Saru. And his proficiency in being able to do that is just really, really impressive. So I really love that. I also love the line, which I think that they added in like as like a little afterthought, a great afterthought, which is like, I have heels now, which is amazing. Which also makes me really think, like, you know, what do Kelpian feet look like? Are they hooves? Have they said that they're hooves? Are they like weird?
Are hooves.
I don't think we have seen.
We haven't seen Kelpian feet, but I have been asking for it since season 1, but nobody has given it to me. But
yeah, that's in a dark corner of the internet, asking for Kelpian feet.
Just as long as they look better than Neelix's feet, we'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, don't be so speciesist.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. So I loved that, and I also really loved like getting to see Wilson with a bit of a different face on as well. I thought that was really fun, and like, I don't know, it's interesting how much that little prosthetic sort of changes his face and changes his personality just in the viewing of it. I just really, really, I don't know. I just enjoyed that, especially having this kind of connection to like prosthetics and everything. Even Sonequa with her little Trill stuff on, it just sort of changes the way that you interpret an actor in a totally different way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brandon, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, like how many times have we seen this in Trek, you know, where we get to see our actors...
Far Beyond the Stars is the big
that's the
example.
big one, yeah. So, you know, and then, or else see them in some other kind of makeup, like, what is it, Apocalypse Rising? We get to see them as Klingons.
Or when you get to see, like, Riker as a Bajoran in Preemptive Strike, stuff like that.
It's fun to see that here. I mean, like, I've seen it online, and I had the same question. Like, after watching the episode, I'm like, why did the computer do this? Because he's a Kelpian, he's seen Kelpians, he's seen humans because they made Saru a human, so, like, why does it do it? But, I mean, it's also very fun, right? And it's really great to see them inhabit these other roles. Like, this is something that's fun with Star Trek that we've seen many times when we get our actors to play a different type of alien species. Second Skin. I love Second Skin.
Yeah.
It's a completely ridiculous episode if you sit down and think of it, but it's also one of the greatest episodes of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
You know, so like it's a lot of fun when we get to see our characters do this. And I mean, I loved seeing Doug Jones because I don't think I've ever seen him outside of his makeup. Right? I don't think I've ever seen him, like, other than, like, pictures and I meant, like, in a role, in acting is what I meant. I think every role that I've seen him has been heavily covered, like Noah was saying. So, I mean, it was fun. It was really cool to see them do this. And I think it's part of the episode that I really enjoyed the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chrissy?
Yeah, like Brandon said, it didn't make sense to me once we...
There is a line in there about wanting to alter the appearance so that it's something that fits more into the program. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure, like, overall with the program, how that makes it, like, if there's a certain mix they're looking for, or, it doesn't make sense if you're this or that person or species or something, but it's fine.
Right, but there's other humans and there's other Kelpians in the program.
Yeah. Right?
So, like, we've got this elder Kelpian. Right. I'm sure we didn't see everything in the program because we only saw a small portion of it. But if he, if they're giving him lessons like this lesson of learning how to deal with his fear, there's definitely going to be other Kelpians in the program. So for Saru to become human, it's kind of like this. So, like, I came up with my own headcanon explanation in that, like, it's just because the computer's malfunctioning so much. Right. And I could live with that. So, like, the radiation has just messed the computer up so much that it just decided to do this unnecessarily. And I can live with that and I'm fine. Because, again, it was fun.
Yeah. And actually, the first hologram that they encounter, the woman who's talking about replicator stuff, the Starfleet uniform is like a mashup of different, like, uniforms and stuff. So the computer is just malfunctioning, putting weird stuff together.
Or that was the uniform for 120 years ago.
I don't think so, because there's actually even parts from the Enterprise uniform in there. But yeah. So anyway, the changed appearance is interesting. But then, kind of we go through and we see this child. I did have a question in my mind, like, how long do Kelpians live? Like, they must live a really long time, I guess. Because
they're aliens in Star Trek, so they live forever.
None of them know, because they all die from the Vihari until recently. So
exactly, yes.
No, that's true. They meant, so they're living out their full potential now. So we do eventually encounter Su'Kal, and eventually, all three of the away team members get to see Su'Kal. So it's this child, played by someone I actually wasn't familiar with before, but Bill Irwin, who I guess is known for a lot of different roles. Yeah,
I'm like very familiar with Bill Irwin. He is sort of like the legendary physical actor, mime, clown of the theater world. He won the MacArthur Genius Grant. He's done a ton of stuff. He's the kind of person when an actor or theater nerd, like you mention him, or, in regard to Flight, which is this legendary performance he did, everyone is like, ooh, So, like, for me, actually, it was really, really exciting to get to see him grapple with prosthetics because, he's such a physical actor. He's such like he's a big act, he's very, very talented. He's done a ton of stuff. I've seen him in a bunch of stuff. He's done a ton of TV. So he's like not unfamiliar with the sort of differences between stage and film, and has done some really, really beautiful, subtle film performances. But getting to watch him grapple with the prosthetic was fascinating because it's such a difficult acting challenge. How do you tell a story without the use of most of your tools, and it was just really, really fascinating to see the places where, to see the decisions he made. And also that's such like a strange and big character, that I just found it like a very, very interesting thing for me personally to watch, knowing, how difficult that mask is to maneuver and how difficult that mask is to convey emotion, convey story. It was really, really interesting to watch him do that.
Yeah, it's great to get that background because I honestly wasn't as familiar with his work. But I think whenever someone plays a Kelpian, Doug Jones is kind of the originator of that kind of species and how they're played on Star Trek. I think had talked with him about how to do it. And I thought it was really great. There's one point when, he's playing Su'Kal and he's like walking away quickly and he does the thing where his arms are kind of going back and forth, which is a really cool little detail that you see Doug Jones do.
That was really funny. I feel like somebody on set was just like, hey, Bill, you have to do this.
I like that Doug Jones was doing it when he was in The Human as well. Like he was still doing that.
Yeah, he was still doing some of that. I think he said when he was this interview that he was trying to do a bit of a kind of mix of like Kelpian stuff and human stuff, and it was interesting.
It's so much of that walk too is because of those heels. His whole body weight is pushed forward, so his arms just have to hang back like that. So it's actually like when you're walking normally, it's actually like a very unnatural thing to do. But when you're in those heels, you're sort of arched backwards. So it almost makes sense that your arms, instead of swinging in front of you, would swing behind you. So it was funny to see him get to kind of grapple with like, wait a second, my weight is normal. Everything is like back to calibration. How do I swing my arms behind me without looking like a total doofus now?
Yeah. So let's talk about Su'Kal for a little bit. I think what we're told in the episode is I think Su'Kal was born 4 or 5 years before the burn, and everyone else on the ship presumably died from radiation, but he had some mutation that helped him to adapt to that. And he's been living there just with these kind of holograms for the last, 120 years or something like that, which would be a really strange existence. So Chrissie, I'm just curious, like, what you think about, how we're introduced to this character and what kind of his life has been like when we meet him and what we see of him in this episode.
Yeah, I couldn't help but think of Future Imperfect and that whole setup. It feels a lot like what that would have been if it had gone on longer, if we had seen more of what Barash was dealing with.
maybe just to remind listeners, that's a TNG episode where we find out at the end there is this alien child who has kind of been part of this holo program for so long and is just really lonely because I think, what was it, the parents had left him there to be safe from some enemy or something like that, right?
Or if they died.
And Riker has to kind of break through like all these levels of the holographic program. But sorry, go on. I just wanted to make sure people
Good point.
were aware of that.
And that's when we find out that Riker's true love is actually Minuet. Yes, that's a good episode.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true for every Star Trek fan now.
On the first watching of it, when you're first considering what's going on here, you say, okay, this makes sense that the mother understood that this child was going to outlive her because of this, they had the radiation poisoning and he had some kind of adaptation we've yet to find out about. And so there's like, okay, this makes perfect sense. There's a logic to it. And then when I watched it the second and third time, it really struck me as, I don't know how to put this, how difficult that could be for a parent. How much time did she spend doing all that, putting all that together, knowing she's doing this purely because she's going to be dying and the child is going to be left alone, completely and utterly alone, except for these holograms. And it just, that kind of raised the hair on my arms to think of it that way. And I guess that, don't mean to bring it down, it makes it very sad, but it's also, you can see that as a project of a lifetime, almost, or the end of one's lifetime. So I think it's wonderful, but I also think it's very sad.
Oh, definitely. It's like, the last kind of things that this parent would do would be to make sure that their child has an environment that they can kind of be nurtured in and survive in before they die.
And not knowing whether or not he's going to be rescued.
Right. So Brandon, thoughts on the Su'Kal?
What did you say this guy's name was, this actor?
Bill Irwin?
Yeah, Bill Irwin.
Bill Irwin, he was absolutely stellar in this role of Su'Kal. Like, just some of the delivery of his lines, the way that he enunciated some of the words was really well done, and it gave definitely a feeling of a person who's been isolated for an extremely long time and was unable to, properly communicate with people because they're just not used to social interactions. So I thought he was really the shining performance of the episode. And, one of my favorite scenes in the episode was with him and Michael Burnham together there. And Michael pretending to be a part of the program. But like, as far as an element for the episode, so it was delivered at the beginning of this episode that this was supposed to be like this shocking twist that it's like, oh, it's this baby that's been around for this 125 years. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, it's not that much of a twist because we didn't know anything about Kelpian physiology, right? So, I mean, like, it was delivered as though it was supposed to be this shocking twist. Did you guys get the feeling that it was supposed to be delivered that way? That it was a surprise, like, oh, it's a baby. We didn't see that was pregnancy on her face, right? So...
Yeah, I mean, I think it was supposed to be delivered as a surprise, although I thought maybe Saru should have said something about that when it first came up. But
because Tilly called out directly, she's like, look, the radiation's affecting her.
Yeah.
Right, and he would have known what that was. So
I think that is more to do with what's going on with Saru, you know, and less about like his not paying attention or like, you know, saying, I think that there is something very real going on with Saru that in that sense, like, that's why he's the one where it's like, it's pregnant. And that's why maybe it doesn't, for me, it didn't quite feel like a surprise, obviously, like, of course not for me, but I think it's like, it's speaking a lot to like where Saru is at, seeing a Kelpian, not bringing up these points that Oded is constantly like pushing him on, like sort of, I think that is sort of what it's trying to drive home is Saru's experience of like never having a home and never having a family. Mm-hmm. That was my take anyway.
Yeah, and this arc that we're getting for Saru is really good, and I'm really liking the fact that it's clear that Saru is emotionally compromised by what's going on here. And I think that makes for really good storytelling, because especially in this episode here, because Saru, when he left the planet, he had come to the terms to realize, you know what, I am never going to see another Kelpian ever again. And then now he's jumped this far in the future, and Kelpians are a part of the Federation.
The Kelpian Bowel Alliance, I'll point out that they talked about
Bowel Alliance, here. Yes. And but sitting down with this elder, which I want to come back to here, he's hearing this lullaby and remembering his home planet. And he says he's got all these powerful memories that are brought up from this song, because this is clearly a song that was around when he was a kid, right? This is like a traditional melody for Kelpians. And it was a really wonderful scene to see. But I compare in my mind what's happening with him to what happened with Non a few episodes ago, who we still haven't seen yet, Justin. So
I know, but yes, I think we'll see her again.
But, you know, so on Discovery, you know, we don't have a lot of aliens, right? But, you know, in the Federation, there's a lot of different aliens that we've seen, you know, in the starbase and in these meetings and whatnot. So I wonder if there's any other Kelpians there. I wonder if there was any other Barzans in the Federation, you know. So it's interesting to see that this is affecting him so much. So there's probably not, right? There's probably not any other Kelpians around the Federation, right? So I'm really enjoying seeing this arc for Saru. But one of the things that I thought was really powerful by seeing this elder is like what Chrissy mentioned earlier. You know, Saru was vital in bringing about this change to the Kelpians in the Prime timeline by getting them past the Vihari. And we wouldn't get elders like that without what Saru did in season 2. Right? So, like, Saru was vital in contributing to the growth of the Kelpian population and bringing them into the Federation. And this all happened in, like, 900 and some years that he's been gone. And so I thought that was a very powerful moment as well for the Saru character.
I mean, you could also say, because we'll talk about it more, I'm sure, because it seems like this Kelpian has caused the burn, that Saru is actually indirectly responsible for that, because he's the one that helped to liberate them and then become part of the Federation, and then this ship ends up in the nebula and all of this stuff happens. Doug Jones actually talked about that when he was interviewed on the Ready Room, and I was like, wow, yeah, he is kind of indirectly responple for this terrible tragedy. I did not go there. Which is... Yeah, I hadn't either until I heard him say it, and I was like, whoa. So it's interesting. Let's talk about Saru for a little bit. You say emotionally compromised. I would say emotionally affected in a deep way, but not necessarily compromised, because if he was compromised, then he wouldn't even allow, after there are kind of these discussions and arguments with Burnham and Culber, to see their point of view. He would just go, you know, full out for whatever he wanted to do. So I don't know if he's compromised, but he's kind of getting there.
Compromised, yeah, that's maybe not the best word. Like, I would compare this to Lessons with Picard and what's her name, Nella Darren. Neladarin, right? So, like, I would classify Picard as compromised in that situation, right?
In
like
the
maybe
situation they put him in, yes.
He may not have made wrong decisions at the time, but he's definitely affected by what's going on. And so is Saru here, and I think it's because of him coming to terms with realizing that he now no longer has to give up his home planet. He can go back to his home planet because they've made first contact and become part of the Federation. So his life is now able to change. Mm-hmm. And it's able to go to a place where he thought was closed to him.
It is for all intents and purposes, though, because the difference of 900 years, it's, you can go home again, but you can't go home again, right? But
there'd be a lot to catch up on.
Well, yeah.
But
before we go further, I do want to bring up one thing. There is, when they see the hologram of the Kelpian doctor, and Tilly's saying, "Oh, look, the radiation," and we later find out that that's indicative of Kelpian pregnancy. There is zero reason for him to correct her at that point. It'd be a distraction, for one, from what they're talking about, because then it's like, oh, no, that means she's pregnant. Oh, really? That's that thing? And then there's, you lose track of, you go off on a tangent. We're good at that. And also, if you're assuming everybody's dead, then that's a moot point anyway. I mean, you don't look at photographs of people that were on the Titanic and go, oh, look, that woman was pregnant. Other than to say, oh, that's sad.
No,
I don't know.
But it wasn't relevant at the time.
Okay, hypothetical question. Like, so far, all we've seen is this weird, I don't know, whatever color you'd call Kelpian skins, right? Like, let's say for a second that we saw a Kelpian and it was a woman and she was a completely different skin tone until he's like, oh, look, the radiation's affected her and turned her skin purple.
Yeah.
Saru would be like, well, no, actually, we've got other Kelpians on our planet that have different skin colors, just like human people do or whatever.
Yeah, but that's a different thing.
Well, but actually, anyway, let's not talk about it for too long. But I took that comment in the previous episode that Saru hadn't even heard the comment about the radiation burns because he was so affected by seeing another Kelpian that he didn't even hear that.
Good point.
And then later it's like, oh, what? By the way, but anyway, so we see Su'Kal, who's been isolated. But I think there's a couple of things that are going on here, and maybe this gets to the heart of, the revelation in this episode. So one of the things that we see, I think not long after they beam in, is behind this huge locked door with lots of locks and chains, there's this monster that I think we find out later is from the Kelpian tradition of stories. It's something that's like a monster that has kelp around it, and you'll only truly be free if you let go of your fear of that thing. And I thought that it was pretty visually stunning to see this thing, but it seems to be something that's affecting Su'Kal and leading to fear, and maybe had led to the burn or something like that. It triggered it, but I'm not sure. But no, again, without giving away anything that we'll learn in the next couple episodes, like isolated to this episode, like what do you think about kind of like the monster and the thing that we see with Su'Kal having this wave kind of go out when it seems like he's anxious or afraid?
Yeah, I don't really remember a lot about what is coming up, so I don't think I'll be able to spoil it. I think there's obviously like a lot that we don't know yet at this point, so it's difficult to like draw full-on conclusions from it. I think like, I don't know if anybody has talked about this, but I know that they had like a lot of trouble with that monster and trying to get it to look good and try and get it to work. And maybe at one point, I don't know, it might have even been a prosthetic somebody tried. I don't know. I honestly wasn't there. So like, that's the extent of my, behind the scenes knowledge, but I thought it was really, really good, like looked really, really good, and was very creepy in a way because like, it didn't seem like it was out for blood, in a way. It was always just sort of like taunting or toying with people, which I thought was really interesting. And obviously I think there's like a lot more we need to know about it, but I enjoyed it a lot. And I enjoyed sort of Michael trying to grapple with something that like isn't listening to her. I thought that was really fun as well. Yeah. I really liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because they're like, it's a hologram, and Michael starts running away, and then I'm like, why would you run away? But then I'm like, okay, this thing is malfunctioning, and we're used to in Star Trek the safeties are off, and you can really get killed by something, so that's why she's running away. But Chrissie, like, what did you think of this monster? And I think if I remember right from the outline, you put something on there where you had a question about this, right?
So, well, first off, it reminded me of the Wraiths in Lord of the Rings. So that was just a cool connection. But no, I'm wondering if this monster is actually the child. And if the Su'Kal that we're seeing is a hologram or a representation of him.
Okay, so I have a question about that, because I hadn't thought about that until you put it on the outline. If that's the case, and the Su'Kal that we think is the child is really a hologram, then how can they possibly have these waves that go outside of the program and affect the other ships?
Well, wouldn't it be coming from the monster child?
It seemed like it was centered directly on Su'Kal, but it's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought about that.
On my most recent watch, I'm kind of feeling like that's not quite going to work. But my first thought was that is not the kid, that we see. It's got to be the monster.
That would be, and they don't have like a tricorder to figure out like what's the real being in there, right?
Yeah.
The reason why I thought that as well, Chrissy, was because when Culber was like, there is only one life form on this planet, and so it can't be this, right? It's just one of those things, right? So as soon as he said that, I'm like, when it came out and then I saw that this monster was looking Kelpian, because the head of the monster does look Kelpian. I'm like, what if that's the kid, and like he's like somehow been able to disassociate his emotions into this other program? Yeah. Right? I totally had that thought cross my mind while I was watching the episode.
That's so interesting, because I did not think about that both watches, and then you put it on the outline and I was like, I wonder.
We don't know if Kelpians have any latent psychic ability to throw out that kind of emotional state. So
I mean, we didn't know about their pregnancy features, right? So
yeah, there's a lot that we don't know. So that's a really interesting thought. I guess we'll have to see what happens.
I'm probably completely wrong, but putting it out there.
Yeah, I mean, because we're going toward there, maybe I don't have to apologize if I'm going too fast, or if there's something you want me to talk about a little bit later. But so we're kind of talking about the source of the burn, which...
Okay, well, I want to talk a bit about the monster here. So yeah,
go ahead.
I loved this part of the episode, okay? I really thought this was awesome, because this really fit, to me, as a legend of the Kelpians. Like this legend's been around for generations. Like, I can see in this monster, like, part Kelpian, part Baul, right? So it's almost back when the Baul were a threat to them, this was some type of legend that's been evolved and changed over time. And the fact that they've got to confront this thing in order for Kelpians to confront their fear. Like I've said before, I don't really like the fear aspect of the Kelpians, and I'm glad that Saru's changed and we've gone past Verharai. But because that's still established, this completely makes sense that they would have this type of legend, for it's like, how do we as a race that's fearful get past something that's scaring us? We have to confront it. What a wonderful type of lesson and legend to tell. This is like, Hans Christian Andersen stories, but on Kelpia, right? Hans Kelpian Andersen, right? So
that's awesome. I love that. That's really cool.
I really love this scene a lot, and I thought it was really cool. So this is my favorite aspect of the episode. Like, and that's the thing. Like, I'm left underwhelmed at the end of the episode, but I'm like, there is so much great stuff in this episode. I loved this episode a lot. Episode was really awesome. So I don't know. It's like, I just kind of wish it was earlier in the season, and I probably wouldn't have that underwhelmed feeling. Like, even if we learned that this was the burn earlier on, I don't know. So, but I just love this,
Yeah. Oh no, I mean, that's interesting, because we talked about it last week about expectations. Like, your expectation might be, I wish this was earlier, but like, I'm just looking at it like, I don't care when it is. I think it's a great story, but yeah, should we talk about the source of the burn at this point, or what we're told is the source of the burn, I should say?
Yeah.
We're told that it is Su'Kal that nearly causes another burn. Now, I have some thoughts where I think it's going, but I think, Noah, you said you like the idea that it's kind of this child that is this source, right?
Yeah, I think it's not. I like what you guys were saying about it not being like, some deep political intrigue, about it not being like, what was sort of teased earlier about like the Federation doing some
or time travel or something. Right?
Yeah. I like that, and I also like the way in which it ties into Saru's story a lot. I think that puts him in a really, really interesting position, and I also, I think like dilithium is such like a strange concept in the Star Trek world, because we're so often told it's like the equivalency of like fossil fuels or whatever, and then it's like, oh no, it's fine. So I really enjoy that there's just like something not right with it, that it's vulnerable, that like this thing that everyone is relying on is somehow unstable, and actually like, they're like being in the wrong place at the wrong time can like really, mess everything up. So I personally, I'm definitely like enjoying all of those aspects of it.
Okay. Chrissie, I think you said you liked it as well.
Yeah. It's having it be a war or some kind of political intrigue or a scientific accident, less so, but all of that's very predictable. I would have never imagined to say, oh, well, it's associated with the mental state of an abandoned child. So I like being surprised with that type of thing.
Okay. And Brandon, I know you had issues with that.
So it's the same issue that I brought up a few times, where it's like this is a book, okay? Like the season is a book, and they're telling us a story, and the seeds that they've been laying throughout the season so far have been like, the Federation kind of maybe let people down. People started to get upset with the Federation. People started leaving the Federation. The Vulcans, whatever they changed their name to, Nivar. They were upset because the Federation was ordering them to do these types of experiments that they didn't want to do with warp. And so to me, like what I was wanting it to be, and I realize, Chrissie, you and I have had this conversation, don't knock a story for what you would have written. But to me, what they've been leading up to this whole time is that the burn was going to be the fault of the Federation, right? And I was expecting like whatever happened that was leading to the Federation falling apart, this was like a final result. This was a final thing to put the nail in the coffin, that not only was the Federation falling apart, but now it couldn't get back together because nobody could warp together or whatever.
So Brandon, I had a thought as I was thinking about this, that if it's true, would I think help what you're worried about? So the thought, I know that we still have 2 episodes. I do know that we still have 2 episodes.
But
here's the thought that I had. So the thought that I had is, there is this mental state of this Kelpian, and maybe they have these powers to do this thing. But I was thinking, like, is that really enough? So what I was thinking was that maybe it was something like there was this outburst, and at the same time, the Navarre are doing this experiment that the Federation forced them to do that amplifies the effect of it, or spreads it, instantaneously across the galaxy to have this effect, so that effectively it's both sources, and that's why the Navarre have like all this data that they think it's their source, but you add some on top of it, actually the original source is somewhere else. So that was my thought. I thought that would be interesting if that was the case.
I don't know, like I guess that'd be interesting to see if we go there, but I think I'd still be underwhelmed that this Kelpian's involved.
Really?
Yeah, I think I would. Like, I'm really underwhelmed that this Kelpian is involved in the burn at all, honestly. So
okay, so that wouldn't even fix it for you. Okay,
I don't think so.
I kind of really like it, and I think that, like, one of the things I think that Discovery has more or less consistently done is when there's a big thing that happens, it's something that Discovery itself has established, like the Red Angel. And like Kelpians are a species they've established, so it makes sense they would have something to do with something inside of Discovery. And I actually kind of like that they do that for some of these big things instead of necessarily going to something else. But okay, well, we'll see over the next couple of episodes what happened. Oh, I did have one other thought about this, which actually comes from, yes, I reference it every week, Mike Wong's Strange New Worlds of Science and Star Trek podcast. So Noah, we've had Mike on. He has a great podcast, and we've poached a bunch of his guests. But so he had this. He's been talking about something, which is that within Discovery, they've had some mentions of dark matter. So in season 2, there's pieces of dark matter that they have aboard the ship that tied in somewhat to the Red Angel mystery. I think even in this season, Tilly was talking about a dark matter interface for Stamets for the spore drive. And as well, the connection Mike was making was that Paul Stamets, who there is a real Paul Stamets, the mycologist who the character on Discovery is based on, in a lecture had talked about how there are some similarities in what we might think of dark matter and what we might think of like a mycelial network, not in Discovery, like a real mycelial network on Earth. So I was thinking in some way that dark matter is involved in this. I don't know, maybe that would tie into the Navarre experiment, but I feel like they're going somewhere with that. I just don't know where exactly.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to put that in there in case it's right. Could be totally wrong. It could be totally something else.
Gotta hedge your bets with this stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Just it could be this, it could be this, it could be this, and one of them will have to be right.
You know, I mean, Jonathan Frakes is directing next week. Time traveling Riker could be the source of the burn. It could be anything. So, I think there are maybe. I think we've talked about a lot of the things that were going on the ship with Su'Kal and with the monster and all of that. But I want to say I also really like, we've especially seen it this season, Culber's kind of care for other people, right? And I think that there was something really great in Culber saying that he wanted to kind of stay there and to help care for this child. I don't have the exact quote, but I think he says something like, you know, I've known what it's like to be completely alone, and I don't want that for you, Saru, or for Su'Kal. So I just want to put it in there. I'm really loving what they're doing with Culber, and you really see his care for all of the people there.
I think they're really finding a nice sweet spot for Wilson and for Culber of sort of like straddling this line between like the ship's doctor into the ship's psychologist as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's kind of a blurry line, which is maybe like not the best, and sort of, you know, Culber's wanting to kind of take care of everyone is sort of like an interesting fault in a way, you know, where almost he's, you know, always the one who people come to or people take care of. And I think Wilson has been doing just like a really, really fantastic job of sort of just playing that and playing his care and, you know, playing how much his, you know, Anthony is sort of like has like this, so they have such like different relationships to their relationship, which I think is really, really nice, you know. So it's been great to see him get to kind of grow Culber out more. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, for sure. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, to add,
good.
You know.
Okay, it's good.
Everybody should read Dead Endless, because I was getting a lot of feeling for Dead Endless.
Absolutely. Yes, I could see that. That's such a great novel. So anything else on Su'Kal, what's happening on the ship, the burn, before we move on to a couple other things?
Really random. Maybe Su'Kal will end up coming back to the ship and Saru will have adopted him. Really random. Really random.
See that.
But just putting it out there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Have like a Worf Alexander situation, but better.
Awesome. So let's move on to something I think that we probably all loved about this episode, which is Saru's away on this away mission, and his first officer, Ensign Tilly, is put into command, and I think that she's really great in kind of taking stock of the whole situation, knowing what to do, trying to stand toe to toe with Osyraa. So
I just want to say before we get too far on this here that we did not know that this was going to be such a heavy Tilly episode when we got our guest on.
No,
this is actually because we had a lot of very fortunate coincidences when we've had our guests come on this year. And this is one of them.
Yeah, I obviously very, very, very much love this. You know, I just thought there's this sort of like build up to Tilly handling it and Tilly's growth and Tilly sort of leaving behind the sort of like freaked out chatterbox ensign and sort of like stepping into this like I can handle it role, you know. And I think what was really nice is the captains we've seen on Discovery have, even with Saru, there's just sort of like a different level of like, they're just so easy and calm. And you know, I feel like what Tilly and what Mary brought to it was like a real like intellectual chess game, you know, where it's like this push and pull between these two powerful women as she's trying to like stall for time, trying to give people time to figure out what's happening, trying to find the best opening. And I think also like, you know, at this point, as much as Discovery has been briefed or debriefed or everything, there's still so much that they don't understand. There's so much about Osyraa and her abilities that are sort of like beyond them at this point. When in the last episode, when Book is using some of her technology, it's like, I don't know. Yeah, give it a shot. Who knows? So I just really, really loved how Mary played it. I loved you could just kind of see her considering all of the options. It's like, well, I stall for time here, but then I might give something away. Or if she's right about this thing, how can I use that to my advantage? If I leave people on the planet, will that, increase the chances that there's going to be another one of these pulse waves and then we all blow up? But if I jump away, or can I cloak? I just really felt like you could see her weighing all these options. And I really loved it, and I thought Mary just did such a good job.
Yeah, Brandon.
So season 1 Tilly, I loved season 1 Tilly, and one of my favorite scenes with her was when she's talking with Michael, and she's like, "I'm going to be a captain someday." Mm-hmm. I loved that scene so much, even on first airing back in season 1, and I really liked seeing the character growth for Tilly. And season 2 came around, and I did not like Tilly at all. I did not like the turn that they took her character. I couldn't stand her when she was on screen. And it's not to do with Mary, because I think Mary's hilarious. I just didn't like the direction that they took Tilly, because I think it was a step back for her character. And I've been saying all season long that this feels like the proper progress for this character. And they've really done justice to her character. And this episode especially, what makes it so wonderful is that she's not completely confident in the role that she's in. She is, you can see it in her eyes. She's very scared. She's very nervous. And that is the proper place for her to be in this moment, because she's an ensign and she's in charge of the ship right now. And this is a very dangerous situation that she's in. So this was my favorite part of the episode. And, Justin and Chrissy, I texted you in our message and I said, this is the Tilly that I loved in season 1. And this is the natural progression of her character. And seeing her go head to head with Oser was the best part of the episode. I didn't really like Oser the first time we saw her. Again, I was kind of underwhelmed with the character because they've been talking about her for so much. But this one here, seeing her and Tilly go head to head on screen was truly wonderful. And I want to see her grow, and I want to keep seeing her grow. And I know maybe not the end of this season, maybe the end of next season, or season 6 or whatever it's going to be, Tilly's going to end up in the captain chair. And they've been laying the seeds throughout the season to show her growth. There's one moment, I don't remember the episode that it happened in, but she's walking through engineering and she's talking to somebody, and she's got her communicator projecting the tricorder thing in front of her. And she's talking with somebody, and she gives them advice and just kind of touches their shoulder and whatnot. And just the way that she was talking with this person, I'm like, this is command ability that we're seeing grow with this character right in front of us. So I loved what we saw in this episode. I thought this was fantastic. And my favorite part about season 3 has been the change in character growth for Tilly. I've loved it so much. So, yeah.
Great. Yeah. Chrissy?
Yeah, Captain Tilly's great. What can you say? I love that we know that she is, in terms of schooling, let's say, prepared for this. She's read the manuals. She's, done the command training program and everything. But no matter how skilled one is at something, doing it for the first time, it doesn't matter how much skill you have. You can, for some people, it all blanks. For some people, they just thrive on that adrenaline rush. But I was glad to see that she's going to need a time to adjust to that, but that she was also able to, what's the good word for it? She was able to project the confidence for the most part that's necessary, even if she wasn't feeling it. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I love this part of the episode too. I mean, a little bit different from Brandon. I've loved the character throughout all the seasons, and I didn't mind the turn it might have taken in season 2. But one thing I want to point out is that if you go back to the first episode she appears in, Context is for Kings, in season 1, Tilly is the one when they're on the, I forget what the name of it was, the other ship that was like Discovery, and this kind of Klingon comes out of the corridor, she's the first one to put up her phaser and be like, don't move, stay right there. She's the one who takes command of the situation. So he has it within her. I think there's just this push and pull between like, can I do it? Am I ready to do it? And I love seeing that, just kind of because that feels so realistic for a real person to be like, sometimes you're confident, sometimes you're questioning yourself, but you just do your best. And this was a quintessential episode where she was doing a really great job, and I'm not sure if someone else with Osira's advantages in this case could have gotten out of it. I think she did the best she possibly could for everyone involved for as long as she could, and that says a lot. So I really love that. And they put the thing in there, which was interesting, with this like metal burr or whatever under the chair, which I don't know if was really there, but I kind of like it as a signal, like, okay, I'm grounding myself. This is going to be difficult, but I can do this. It's just that constant reminder that also that she's there in that lineage of people that have been in the captain's chair, you know, like Saru and like Pike, and, you know, on the Shenzhou, like Prime Giorgio. So I thought there was a lot of really great stuff, and I'm just so interested to see how this progresses. But again, all I have to ask is, by the end of the season, can she at least be promoted to lieutenant? That is my only ask. Yeah. Because I think she deserves it. So, yeah, it sounds like we all love the parts with Tilly. It was interesting to find out Discovery can cloak. I guess it makes sense. It's been a long time since they've not been able to because of treaties with the
Tree of
Romulans,
Algernon is no longer in
another
effect.
thing they can do. Yeah, I mean, the Romulan Empire is
no longer in effect itself. Yeah,
there. So, yeah.
That plot point there with them having the cloak ability, that is just as convenient as the prefix code in Star Trek 2.
Yeah.
It's just convenient that they've got that right then, so it's never mentioned before. And
well, she said it was part of the refit.
Yeah,
whatever.
I think it's fine. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, sounds like we all loved Tilly in this episode, and we're looking forward to more. Anything else to say about Tilly in this episode?
Just part of the character is like, I wonder how much, like, so with Tilly as a character, she's had this goal in mind since the beginning that she's wanted to be a captain, right? And, you know, she's been kind of an awkward character. I think about this and I'm like, how much of this is directly because of her mom, right? You know, we had the book, what is it, The Path to the Stars?
The Way to the Stars.
Way to the Stars, right? Where we did get a lot of the information with her mom. And it's like, how much of the lack in self-confidence that she seems to have sometimes is a direct result of her mom's influence on her?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it based on reading the book. Have you read the book? No,
I haven't read the book. I don't know how canonical it is in terms of actually Mary's performance, but I do think that those things are fun to like help fill in some of the gaps that you don't know yet. You know what I mean? And I also think, you know, in terms of like her mom, that domineering mom, the kind of flip side is like how much of her feeling like she has to be in command is because of her mom too, which I find very interesting, which is like, you know, she's in the chair now and she's there, and, you know, what her opinion of like, is this actually who she is? Do you know what I mean? Like she did it. Mom's not around anymore to kind of finally give her that validation. You know, I think what's interesting about, you know, the world that they're in now is sort of all those things of who they had to be. And I think it's true for Saru and for Michael. All the things that they were working towards may or may not be true now in a really exciting way that allows people to kind of reevaluate, well, if I want this, why do I want this? I don't know. Personally, that resonates with me, where it's like, here, you know, something I've been working towards for so long and I want this. And then you get there and you're like, oh, what was I doing again? You know, why did I want this? Do I really want this? I feel like that's sort of like a universal experience, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, that is quite interesting. And actually, there was a reference to that novel, The Way to the Stars, in this episode when she talks about her grandma Adele. That comes from the book, which
amazing.
Is cool. So they pulled
I'm gonna
that
have to
in.
read it.
It's a good book.
I mean, you should read it because it's a great book. I mean, the us three hosts, we love the novels. None of them are really considered canon. They can be overwritten at any time, even though with Discovery, they're really trying to more tightly integrate it. If they come up with a great story for on-screen, they can overwrite something. But you should definitely read it because it's one of my favorite Star Trek novels. I've read over 350, and it's one of my favorites. It's really, really good.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So you should check it out.
I love the idea that we may come to the end of this and Tilly says, you know what? Being in command is all right, but I'd rather do my science-y stuff. You know? That would be a very...
It could be, but it doesn't feel like...
No, it doesn't, but that's an important piece of, for lack of a better term, representation. People change their minds.
I mean, also just to talk about it for a minute, but like Saru is captain now. It seems like being a captain is in Burnham's future and Tilly's future. Like at a certain point, something has to give, or they have to go off to different ships or whatever. So I'll be interested to see how they handle that. Personally, I would love it if it was 2 or 3 ships working together week to week. But,
I don't know, man. They had Captain Kirk and Captain Spock working together for how long?
And Captain Scott,
right? They're all captains. They're all captains on the
McCoy had to be at some point since
true.
he became an admiral afterward.
Since he became an admiral, yeah. Too many captains in the room. Anyway, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes. So we maybe talked about it a little bit, but Osira's takeover of Discovery, so Brandon, I felt the way you did. Like I was a bit underwhelmed by Osira in Scavengers, but in this episode, I think she more lived up to being dangerous and on top of it, and a real adversary that's going to be a real threat. So I really like that. But I just want to see if there are other thoughts about kind of Osira and her takeover in this episode. Noah?
I hate Osira. God damn you, Osira.
I know. She really pulled Tilly out of the chair.
Yeah, I really found myself hating her in a different way that I did in Scavengers, because in Scavengers I was blowing her up, and that was really fun. And I was like, thank God I know all about your ship, you idiot. And this one I was like, oh, I hate you so much, which is probably a good thing for the view, for viewing. Yeah, I was, it's just like, Janet does such a good job with her, and she just has that thing which is like just like a mean girl in high school, which is truly the worst villain of all. It's just like, you just make my skin crawl. You're not nice to anybody. You're always picking on people. You got you're fake as hell.
Yeah.
Ugh.
You know what? As you're talking about it, I made a connection I hadn't really before, because there is this thing that Osira does where it seems like talking in a pleasant enough tone, not really like shouting or being aggressive, that seems similar to Kai Wynn in DS9, where it's like,
yeah, absolutely.
just like this tone that's just so, I don't even know the word for it, but it's not like aggressive, but it's just like so passive aggressive and so just like like you're speaking softly, but you're trying to kill me.
It really does make you grate your teeth. It's just like you want to jump through the screen and just like rip her mask off and just be like, Janet, get out of here. You're pissing me off.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm sure. Well, we know Rin hates Osira, so that's perfect.
I love her delivery of her lines, like the way that she talks, I don't know. I think she does a really good job of delivering her lines. And what you're saying is she is a bit more passive, though, than Wynn, because Wynn is just oozing snottiness whenever she talks, right? Like oozing superiority. And Osira here, like, her one line there where she's like, "Don't test me, Red." Like, just the way that it was delivered was just wonderful, right? So, and it threw Tilly for a loop. She's like, "Okay, we will skip with Freud." And then,
like Osira is in a different way than Wynn, where she's trying to like claw back power. Like Osira is in control,
in power,
which is like, yeah, that's how I would act too. I'd be like, "What are you gonna do about it?" Or you really piss me off, I'm gonna take your stuff. That toy's my toy now.
Good analogy, the toy thing, because she really does strike me as somebody who's never not had power. She, as soon as she was able to talk, she was ordering servants around. That kind of person. Slaves probably, actually, because it's Orions. But yeah. Sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
I was kind of surprised that the Discovery was able to get their ship to jump.
Yes.
Just by being connected.
So, yeah, I thought it was interesting. They had these tentacle things that were coming out of Osira's ship that, allowed them to jump. I don't know. I was thinking they have developed something, because they know about the spore drive in this period of time, something to just connect them together like that. But yeah.
They just put mushrooms all over their ship.
I think probably a lot of it also had to do with like the control of Stamets that he's under too. I think that is probably have to do something.
Okay, yeah, and that I thought that was really interesting. They have this device that these kind of cybernetic looking troops like put on Stamets, and he gets the white in his eye that's similar to when he was in a coma in season 1. That's really disturbing. Right. So they force him to do something, and maybe that, I don't know, but yeah, I was surprised too, because Osira's ship is bigger than Discovery, so it's these two big ships that are jumping together. Wow. Yeah.
And then is one of those people a Borg?
I don't think so.
Because what he says, like, what you want is irrelevant or something like that. I don't know. Just
yeah,
like, is that a Borg underneath that thing?
Something like that. But I mean, okay, that's also the other thing that we've found out about in the books, but that's not canon. But we don't really know what's happened to the Borg because we've seen just like a little slice of it in Picard with this one cube. We don't know on the greater scale what's happening. That would be an interesting connection. So because they've been actually talking a little bits here and there for years about bringing the Borg somehow. I don't know how, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So we're.
I actually just recently read an article that somebody wrote. If you want to hear it, on how they could bring back the Borg. Is that
how long is the article?
Not very. It's just a few images, but it's like
Go ahead.
Okay, so Picard mind melded with Sarek,
right,
prior to being assimilated as Locutus, so he would have known, because Sarek knew about Discovery and the spore drive.
Yeah.
Right? So he could have got that information from that mind meld, which now the Borg has that information, right? So and then if Sarek would have also known about the jump, so the Borg may know that Discovery is now 900 years in the future. Right, or something like that. So, anyways, they might.
And the Borg time travel all over the place, so they could just decide at that instant. We could see the cube that was headed toward Wolf 359 to help just change course and end up 938 years later. 830 years later.
Yeah. You know what, Brandon? It is the cube from Q Who. That's what we're going to see in season 3 of Discovery.
Finally, we answer it.
Because Brandon was trying to make that connection for Picard, but that didn't work. But okay, so let's talk about a couple of other things.
No, mine was the one from the neutral zone. That's the one I was hoping.
Oh, the neutral zone. Sorry. Yeah, the neutral zone. Yeah, I mean that could still come in. Why not? That's why it didn't become a huge threat, because it time traveled, 800 years in the future. There you go. So. Let's talk about a couple of other things. So one of the other things, it's just a few short scenes, I think, is the return of Gray, who has been kind of missing, and Adira hasn't seen him lately. So I think there's a few short scenes. I think it is interesting because Gray has a few things to say, basically, just apologizing and saying, I haven't known how to be. You get to interact with the world and be who you are, and I'm just stuck. You're the only one that can see me, and that's not how it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to be connected. But that doesn't excuse my disappearing. So it's just a little short thing. And I've been very interested since we first saw these characters in Forget Me Not some episodes back, in kind of their connection. And we're going to see, it seems to be a hint that maybe Gray can manifest really in the world at some point. But I was curious to get thoughts, Noah. I can't say anything. Okay.
I'm just very excited to see more of Ian.
Yeah.
They're such a fantastic actor that, like, anytime Ian and Blue are on screen together, I just find myself being very, very happy. I just really enjoy both of them so much.
Okay. Well, that's good. And we'll see more that happens, I'm sure, in the next few episodes. Brandon, any thoughts on kind of some of these brief scenes?
I was hoping for more. It just was really quick, and Adira was like sad and expressed how they felt, and then it was just kind of over. And whenever we saw the two of them together later on, they were just working together like it was normal. So I was just hoping for more once we finally saw Gray again. So
yeah, I think we'll get there.
I'm sure we'll get more coming up. But Chrissie, any thoughts on what happened here? Or what's going on?
No, I mean, if Gray manifests in a way that can be seen other than by Adira, maybe it'll have something to do with what's going on the planet. Because the fact that she's there, they are there with them.
So maybe what's manifesting has some way of making Gray.
Oh, and if the monster is some kind of manifestation of emotion, that could work. Because that could be the same method of manifesting Gray. I may have just written a whole other story here.
I know.
That's another book. That's the next book.
I mean, we have mobile emitters. You could put Gray in a mobile emitter as a hologram or something.
As long as you can put the consciousness in, yeah, actually could.
Yeah. If you can get that consciousness. Okay. So anyway, it was just a brief thing. I know that we wanted to just acknowledge it, but there was one other thing which Brandon did not want me to include, but I am hosting, so I will be including. So oftentimes we have Chrissie's History Corner, where she have a historical thing, which I think you don't have this time, right? Oh, okay. So instead, as a substitution, we're having Grudge's cuteness corner, because I love seeing Grudge in sickbay. So we saw these images before and saw Grudge was in sickbay. What's happening? I do question Book taking Grudge on this ship when it's in this radiation zone, but whatever. We get a scene in
He didn't have time.
Bay.
They beamed him and he was gone, so he didn't have time, yeah.
That's true.
It just really shows how much he's into Michael, if he's willing to risk Grudge, you know?
Yeah. Risk the queen. But I have to ask, since you're here, Noah, and you got a chance to act with I think it's multiple cats that play Grudge, right?
You know what? Everybody keeps saying that. David posts these pictures of 2 cats. When I was there, I was on set for 12 hours, and there was one goddamn cat. I don't know what anybody else is talking about. I'm like, oh yeah, we have more than one cat. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Okay, so what was your experience like with this one cat?
It was a nightmare. This cat is a diva. Oh my God. You know, like, well, I mean, look, I'm being facetious a little bit. Obviously, like, you know, of course, when David or Mary or Sonequa have to like be with the cat, they're in like a very low lit room and they're like holding it, and the cat's very happy. And of course, like when I'm holding it, I'm like, ah! You know, like screaming at this cat, and it's like this giant blue head with this bright white hair, and I'm like clutching it to my body. That cat did not want to be there. It didn't have a stand-in, so it was there, me screaming at it for 12 hours. In the episode, it was supposed to be like comforting me and licking me, and like I was like all freaked out. It was supposed to be that, and Jonathan was directing. I was like, Jonathan, this isn't gonna happen. Like, this cat hates my guts. Like, look at my costume. There was these giant claw marks on my costume, and I was like, I'm letting go of this cat as soon as I can, so it doesn't murder me. And I'm gonna like point out where to shoot. And he's like, great, I love it, because like it looks like crap. This cat is like desperately trying to get out of your arms. So total diva. It didn't jump in my lap. Somebody picked it up and threw it in my lap. Yeah, so you know, don't believe the hype on Grudge. They're very very difficult.
Shattered
to
all
work
my
with.
illusions. I've been worshiping at
Well, you know what?
Twitter
Actually, no, the Twitter feed is great, and I love them obviously. And I think really what's so funny is like everyone else has been like, "What a sweet kitty." David's like holding 2 of them, and they're just like meow. And I'm like, meanwhile, like, thank God I have this thick piece of rubber on my face, or it's going to scratch my eyes out. You know. I think I just got it on an off day.
Probably.
Wow. Okay. Well, good to know. I think you and Brent Spiner have a lot to talk about, because he kind of hated the cats that played Spock, because
I get it.
You are in good company with being on film with a cat that distracts everyone from you. Well,
that's why I had to get rid of it as soon as I did too, because I was like, everyone's looking at the cat.
Well, if anybody hasn't seen The Godfather, you know, there is that scene, infamous scene where he's holding the cat, and there's no reason at all to look at Marlon Brando, because the cat is doing everything interesting. So I'd say that's good company.
Well, I figured it out. I learned from his mistakes, and I threw it out of my arms as fast as I could.
Okay. Well, great to have that inside info. I will continue to worship Grudge regardless, and just say that Grudge had an off day.
We've repaired our relationship on Twitter. We've come back together after all this fan art of us together, but for a while there it was very touch and go.
Awesome. So, all right. So I'm just going to say, since we just have a bit of time left here, any other thoughts before I go through my usual list of canon connections?
Noah, just my daughter's 10 years old, and she said twice when we watched the episode how much she loved Tilly this episode.
Oh, that's so wonderful to hear. Yeah, you know, Mary really loves hearing, you know, how her sort of screen presence can really reach a lot of different people. I think especially like a lot of younger girls like your daughter are just like really see themselves in her, and sort of see that, you know, you don't have to sort of fit into an idea that is presented for you to be successful. You know, you can really be yourself, even if that's quirky or weird or talkative or girly, you know, whatever, you know, you don't have to be one thing in order to succeed.
Yes.
Awesome. Yep. So glad you got to tell Noah, who I'm sure will tell Mary, which is great.
Definitely.
Awesome. So I usually have my list of connections to other Star Trek, so I'm just going to quickly go through those. DNA recombination in this episode, that's kind of like the genetic recombination that Burnham has when she has radiation burns way back in the Vulcan Hello, so that was cool. Nilsson doesn't seem to be on the bridge, and
yeah,
instead,
who was that?
Let me tell you. Instead, Nilsson's station was manned by, I think it's pronounced Ava Blackwell, who usually plays Osnullis. You know what we call the octopus head. She's usually playing that one of those characters.
So this episode was all about getting the aliens out of their makeup.
Great.
Apparently,
That's
but
really funny.
See, I didn't know what she looked like, so I was like, who is this oh, it's the person who played Osnullis. Okay, cool. So one of the things I also didn't notice is when they're cloaked, apparently there's like a green alert graphic on the monitor, which is I did not notice that, which joins things like red alert and yellow alert and black alert and blue alert and all these things. So now we have green alert for cloaking, which is cool. Let's see what else. I don't know if we mentioned it, but in the storybook, there's the watchful or all-seeing eye, which comes from, I think, the brightest star originally, with those kind of frightful things that are now protectors. The Dilithium planet, I think there's a graphic on there that classifies it as Class Y, a demon class planet, which is a cool connection back to Voyager. Let's see what else we have here. So the Kelpian Elder was played by, probably not going to pronounce it right, Robert Verlacki, I think, who also played Saru's father in The Brightest Star, which is cool.
Good connection.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. Let's see what else. So the kind of holographic environment, it was actually filmed at a real prison that has come into disuse, the Kingston Penitentiary in Ontario, which is cool. Let's see if there's anything else. We mentioned that. I guess that's it. I just have one question. When Adira beams down, what species will they be in the program? Will it be Trill? Will it be something else? Vulcan? Or, I don't know. Anyway, it's just an interesting question.
Klingon.
Klingon, that would be crazy. Then we'll have to decide which kind of Klingon they want.
Well, TOS style.
That would be cool, because we have not seen Klingons this season. So let's see. Noah, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to come with us for this crazy discussion about the latest Discovery episode. So I think we will be seeing you again as Ren the Andorian, I hope, in Discovery. But in the meantime, if people want to connect with you on social media, how can they get a hold of you? And is there any current or upcoming work you want to let people know about?
Just follow me on Twitter at N_A_K. Find all that stuff. Stay posted on Charity, Dungeons and Dragons, Star Trek stuff. It's all there. And I like you all are looking forward for the next couple of episodes.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely people should follow you on Twitter. There's a lot of fun stuff that you post there related to all kinds of stuff. So yeah, thank you so much again for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Happy to be here, guys. I had a blast.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I know you have to go in a few minutes, so you can go or watch us do the rest. But
I'll take off. Okay. Thanks for having me. It's always great to kind of hear the inside fan perspective, because as much as I sort of straddle the line, I really am on the other side of the fence, especially sort of knowing everybody. So it's really fun to kind of get to hear everybody talk about what they hope and what happened and what didn't happen. So yeah, I just really appreciate it. And it's stuff like this is why Star Trek exists, enjoying it, discussing it, finding the plot holes in it, finding the things that really stuck with you. It's like, that's what it's all about. So I really dig it.
Well, thank you.
So Chrissie, where can people find you when you're not beaming into a holographic program and coming out as a Ferengi?
Oh,
that'd be interesting.
That would be very interesting. Okay, well, I'm on Twitter at the Goddess Olivia, and that's TheGoddessLivia, where I tweet about Star Trek history and leftist politics. You can also follow my work in history by bookmarking the webpage my fellow historian partner Jason and I run, and that's History with the Szilagys, which is at historywiththeszilagys.org. And that's spelled SZILAGYIS. And we also have a Facebook page, same name, History with the Szilagys. And there you'll see our current project, Historical Musings, which is blogs discussing historical context for current events. And I hope that if I ever end up somewhere as a Ferengi, it's after the change under Rom.
Yes, and let us hope that Rom's reforms are still in place 900 years later, right? Yeah.
Oh,
ooh, I know. It's one of those things. What are the Ferengi up to?
Maybe the tables have been completely turned. And the women are the only ones who can earn profit. Although that wouldn't be right either.
I don't know.
And wear clothes.
So, Brandon, where can people find you when you're not beaming into a holodeck program as a Cardassian?
Oh, a Taylor Cardassian to boot.
Yes, as Garrick. Ooh, that would be cool.
You can find me on Twitter at Brandon Matella. You can find me here on the network with another show called Franchise Fatigue, which I host with my friend Zach. We cover movies, remakes, and sequels. Our House of Nolan will be kicking up into gear pretty soon here. Should be on the 7th, I believe it is. The 7th of January is going to be our first episode on Following, which is Christopher Nolan's first film. And then you can also find me with my podcast, Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast. And on New Year's Day here, January 1st, we will be dropping our episode on Stage Fright, which is a lot of fun. So it's a very, very interesting movie by him. And I guess that's about it. That's about all that I'm doing right now. So that's pretty much everywhere that you can find me. So, Justin, where can people find you when you're not causing the burn because you're freaking out over some weird black ghost thing?
It wasn't me. It was really those treacherous Navarre in the Federation. And I just got blamed for it. Well, when I'm not doing that, and I hope I'm not, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at TrekFan4747, where I tweet about nothing but Star Trek. And you can find me in our Facebook group, the Federation Council Chambers, where we talk about this and all other United Federation of Podcasts episodes. Thank you very much for tuning in to Infinite Diversity. Thank you to our executive producers, Ken Tripp, Tony Robinson, and Zach Moore. Thank you to Zach Tripp for the wonderful theme music and Tony Robinson for the awesome show art. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and please subscribe. And if you've gotten this far, take a moment, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and subscribe. Okay, now that you've done that...
We haven't had one for a while, have we?
I haven't had one for a while. Please, we're desperate. No, we're not desperate. So if you want to reach out, you can find the network on Twitter at UFP Earth, or the show's Twitter handle of @IDIC Podcast. And as I mentioned, we have a Facebook group called Federation Council Chambers. Please join us there. Or you can email us at infinitediversity@ufp.earth. So on the next episode, we'll be talking about the 12th installment of Discovery Season 3, The Good of the People. Actually, it's not going to be called The Good of the People because that's another leaked one that's changed. It's actually going to be called There Is a Tide. So until then, peace and long life.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.
Hey, I kept it to an hour and a half with a couple minutes to spare.
Now that he's gone, holy fuck that chili. No, I'm just kidding.
There's your thing for the end.
Oh, jeez. Maybe. I don't know. Or we could just keep talking about the episode for another hour.
No, I think I'm screwed. Yeah, I don't think I have much more to add. So,
All right.